We are here at the World Social Security Forum in Doha, Qatar. And I'm very glad that Mr. Lee Archer is here right next to me. And I would like to ask, because Mr. Lee Archer is from Australia, what is the situation of prevention in Australia?
Well, it's like more countries in the world. It's becoming much more in the mindset of policymakers and the public at large, realising that too often our social systems often come in too late, and in terms of things like disability and labour accident, is that we want to make sure that we stop people falling into these systems.
So would you say there is emerging a new culture of prevention in Australia and with the employees as well?
Yes, certainly. It certainly is. And I mean, our government is introducing a new scheme called the National Disability Insurance Scheme for sort of like for people who have very profound disabilities and injuries. And of course, I think that's waking the awareness to all people in Australia that that when these things happen, people really do suffer. They have a lot of disadvantage. They have a lot of needs. And I think people are making more realise you don't want to be in that situation, And so there's a heightened awareness of the issues related to disability and labour accident being brought about by this new National Disability Insurance Scheme.
Do you have special problems with your son in Australia? It's very strong in the construction sites for workers.
It is, and the things about getting workers to put on sunscreen and wear hats, and that's become really quite an issue. Our skin cancer rates in Australia are one of the highest in the world, and of course construction workers are in the sun all day, every day. So I think it took a while for progressive employers to realise actually giving out free sunscreen to the workers is a good thing. It's a good preventative measure. It's cheap, much better than having to deal with workers getting skin cancers.
Well, I have noticed, Mr. Lee Archer, that you are quite a Twitterer.
Yes.
So my question would be, are social media used in Australia for prevention purposes, for example?
Well, I think that's actually that's something that's I think still very new, and I think we're actually about to initiate some research ourselves next year through our research institute, looking at how social media and mobility type solutions can be used by social security or compensation type organisations to actually engage more and engage in a much better way with their constituents. And we're really focused very much on the concept of empowerment. How do you empower people with knowledge and information so that they can actually do are much more informed, and they're not having the organisation telling them what to do. They're actually accessing information, accessing the services they need, and doing it in their own time, what's convenient to them, and in a way that sort of best suits their circumstances.
Mm-hmm. So there will be, through social media and maybe other measures, more participation of the, let's say, customers themselves?
I think so. I think that's what we're looking at, to see that, at the moment it's perhaps a bit one way. I mean, organisations seeing as perhaps we push some information out, but not really sure whether it's doing anything. What I think can become powerful is for organisations to have a look at what is being said in these communities, because that's where people are communicating, and that's where people trust. Where do they trust their information sources? They trust their own networks. So if you're a construction worker, who do you trust the most? Another construction worker. People who are working in the industry. Do I always trust the employers? Do I always trust the government when it comes to the right information? Maybe I do, maybe I don't. But I always trust my network of colleagues and people that who share the same experiences. And that's where I think social media can become really valuable, because that's how people start exchanging information. And it's happening without the accident fund or the Workers' Compensation Board being aware of. But that's a good thing. Now, of course, what you've got to be careful of, you don't want misinformation being spread out there. So, but that's a balance, I think it's better to be having people informed, because if it is misinformation out there, again, the network will stop it.
And even the organizations might get some feedback.
Exactly.
What the people are really thinking, what their real needs are.
Exactly. I mean, one of the service quality guidelines that that were launched here at the forum, there's 7 guidelines. One is called listening to the participant, and that is about, and the participant is, it's either the workers, or it's employers, or it's service providers, rehab providers, listening to their needs. What are they telling us? And then incorporating that into sort of more of a co-design or co-production way of developing new solutions. If we don't listen, then how do we know what the real needs are? But often, of course, people won't sit down with the government or the workers' comp and tell them exactly what they need. Again, they're telling their colleagues. They're using the chat rooms, they're using Twitter to air their complaints or air their concerns. And we need to find ways to tap into that and listen, and then make some good decisions based on that information.
One last question. This World Forum or the World Congress, which will be in Frankfurt next year, is it necessary to? I mean, it's quite expensive too to get people from 120 countries to this one venue. What's the benefit of it?
Well, look, I think, of course, it's always the opportunity to meet and network with peers and people in your industry. And I think, in fact, that's often the most valuable piece, because then you develop relationships that you can use, take advantage of for many years. I mean, I know, we all think about electronic and media, and perhaps we don't need to have face-to-face meetings, but I always find that once you've met somebody face-to-face, then working with them electronically by email or teleconferences or even video conferences is much more productive once you've actually made and had that personal contact. And I think that's what the value of these congresses are, is making those initial personal contacts.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Lee Archer, that we met face to face.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we can keep it going.
Exactly.
And keep electronically later. Yes, thank you.
No worries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck with the Congress.
Thank you.